Shalom וברוכים הבא. Oh, no. I did it again. I did it again.
Oops, he did it again.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fun with Flags, the show where we teach each other about each other's countries. We really should probably come up with a proper intro for each of us. But anyways, I am 50. This is Soda.
Hello.
How are you doing, my man?
I'm doing good. It's a Sunday morning that we're recording this. It's the only day I get to relax and sleep in. And as usual, I can spend it with my best friend. So let's do this.
Yeah. Fun fact, in Israel, Sunday is the first day of the week. So, yeah.
For us, it's the last. Well, the calendar is structured Sunday to Sunday. But I mean, everyone here considers Monday the start of the week.
Yeah, well, so whenever people on your side of the world say, I hate Mondays, for us, it's we hate Sundays.
The irony being is that's God's day of rest, but hey.
Yeah, because apparently even God needs us every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you remember my last topic from 2 weeks ago, Mr. Soda?
I do. I remember you taught me the Hebrew language, which when I told people that, they're like, really?
Yes, but did you know that Hebrew, being one of the oldest languages in the world, not all of the letters actually used to look like that for all of its existence. As a matter of fact, the writing that I showed you last time I had a topic for the show was actually around 100 to 130 years old ish.
Really?
Yeah. The Hebrew language has had many of developments over the last couple of thousands of years and has even influenced other languages. Today we will be discussing the first ever look of the Hebrew language, or rather the Hebrew letters, as seen here in this picture. You'll probably get a much better sense of it in this picture, even though it's a little harder.
There's phonetic pronunciation. Awesome.
Where exactly?
Well, it's just like, under the symbols, you got like ha, h, or for ra. That's what I mean. Like there's actual visual representation for what the words sound like.
Yeah, which I suppose would make it easier for you to understand. A lot better than I did last time, but so how? I mean, going back into our own history, specifically the Israeli history, or the history of the Jews, the Israelites, the Hebrew, whichever way you want to call them. You're probably familiar. As a matter of fact, we're kind of coming up on that in a couple of weeks. You are familiar with the story of Passover, right?
Naturally, yeah. That is probably the Jewish tradition people have heard of the most over here. I would say that and Hanukkah, obviously.
Yes. And as such, when the Hebrew left the land of Egypt, they've also taken with them a lot of the cultures and customs of the ancient Egyptians.
Mm-hmm.
One of which was having their language be represented by symbols and icons. So for the very first few 100 years, the Hebrew language, as seen in this picture, didn't really resemble anything closely related to letters, at least not the letters that we are familiar with in the modern times. They were mostly meant to resemble or represent items that begin with the first letter of letter.
So looking at these pictures here, so the gimel looks like a reclined seat. The kaf kind of looks like a menorah. The noon looks like a snake. The ayin does look like an eye. The kof looks like a pop can tab. And the sin looks like a handlebar mustache that a villain would wear. And Rez looks like two people arguing.
I'll do you one better. It looks like that meme of the two Chads.
Yeah.
Looking at each other.
Yeah. But the Yod just looks dirty.
Oh, well, let's take that off. Well, you were mostly close on some of these. There's one you definitely nailed. I'm not going to tell you which one, but shall we start off with the first letter then?
Best way to start off is from the beginning.
Yep, I always say. So the letter Aleph in ancient times used to look like this.
Looks like Kevin Owens' bolt tattoo. Wrestler.
Or yeah, okay, that's an interesting hypothesis.
Tell me, does it not look like a bull's head?
I was going to lead into that by saying, doesn't that just look like a bull?
No, there you
Not,
go.
not a bull tattoo.
No bull.
Yeah. So with the letter Aleph looking like a bull's head, can you infer from that that the meaning of the word that this letter is meant to represent starts with the word Aleph?
Sorry, say that again.
I said, since the representation of the letter Aleph is the head of a bull, does that mean that it is meant to resemble? That the word that is meant that the Hebrew word for bull starts with an Aleph?
Now that actually makes sense now. And sorry, I was sneezing when you were explaining beforehand, so that's why I didn't hear you.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
To be honest, I didn't even hear you sneeze.
That's what I muted myself.
Oh, right. So answer the question, please.
Yeah, no, that makes sense to me. That the Hebrew word for bull would start with an aleph, considering the symbol is a bull's head.
Well, would you be surprised if I told you that no, it does not.
Oh,
the Hebrew word for bull is shor. Shor, which means, by any definition, it does not start with the word Aleph, the letter Aleph.
Yeah, not even close.
So why in the world is the letter Aleph represented by a bull's head? And please try to avoid saying because it's bullshit.
No, I was going to say probably because
I saw that joke coming a while away.
Probably because the head is usually the first part of the body that people associate with, and that would make sense why it's just, the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet. I don't know. It's the only thing I can think of.
Well, it is kind of a better explanation than the actual explanation. It's mainly because...
Don't ask questions.
Yeah, it's mainly because in the ancient times, the ancient Hebrew considered the bull to be the alpha or the apex of the cattle or the oxen, being the most prominent of all the domesticated cattle, meaning cows and horses and camels and whatnot, which is why they nicknamed the animal Aluf Habakar.
Aluf Habakaro.
Yeah, literally meaning champion of the cattle.
So Aluf is champion?
Yeah, the Aluf is the Hebrew word for champion.
What's funny is Aluf is something totally different over here. It's the opposite.
I know. Yep. I know what it means. You'll never catch me, Floor Tentacles, or my name is not Captain Aloof.
SpongeBob?
If you know the reference, you are awesome.
SpongeBob?
So, what?
Was it SpongeBob?
Pokemon talk. Never mind. So, as such, the word Aluf Habakar was given to the letter Aleph, and over the course of many, many centuries, if not millennia, they sort of changed the word Aluf to Aleph. And you're going to see that with most of the letters we're going to be discussing today, where the original intention of the name changed a little bit in the pronunciation, and to the point where it now vaguely resembles the word that it's based on, very similar to how the letter itself looks like in comparison to the original look of it. So if you take the modern form of the letter Aleph,
not even close.
It does not look at all like a bull. However, if you really want, and this is really where we're going to test the limits of your imagination in this episode, because if you kind of look at it from a certain point of view, you notice that there's a straight line with two horns coming out of it on either side. Doesn't that kind of resemble the two horns on the bull's head? Or like the straight line, the diagonal. Sorry, is it diagonal?
Yeah,
I always get
horizontal is up and
confused.
down.
Yeah, so diagonal is like this.
Or no, horizontal is like this, vertical is like this, diagonal is like that. Sorry.
Yeah. So the diagonal line is kind of the forehead with the two protruding horns in opposite direction.
I mean, I can kind of see it, but it still resembles more of a man doing disco to me.
I mean, hey, everyone looks at the same thing and sees something else.
Yeah, that's the beauty of a Rorschach test.
True. But if we were to look at the writing form of the letter A, it does kind of look a little bit more like the horns of the bull, right? If you kind of tilt it, right? The straight line with the horn-like protrusions coming out of it.
Yeah, the one on the left, right?
The left is the writing form, yes.
Yeah, that one, because I mean, yeah, that looks more like it because you turn it 90 degrees. It looks more like this than the other one.
Yeah. So the original look of the letter Aleph still continues to influence the look of the modern version of the letter. But that does not stop there, Mr. Soda. No, it does not.
Oh, there's more.
Yeah. Consider the letter A for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Now look at it this way.
Ah, yes.
Doesn't that look a little bit like a bull?
That looks more like a bull than the actual Aleph does.
Yeah, so clearly, as you can see, the original look of these ancient forms of the Hebrew letters have influenced the Latin letters, which later became the letters for several different languages, including English.
Mm-hmm.
And now, whenever you see the letter A, you will never be able to unsee this. You're welcome.
Okay.
So, should we move on to the letter Bet?
Naturally.
The letter Bet in ancient times used to look, and by the way, I apologize in advance. Some of these I found in really good quality. Some I could not. So some of them were going to look a little bit pixelated. And I'm pretty sure the Bet one is one of those ones. But
oh, yeah. But at least you can still see it.
Yeah, at least it's still, you can see the actual, what the letter itself is supposed to be.
Yeah.
Now, if the letter Aleph was a little bit more obvious, can you tell me what the letter Bet is supposed to represent here with this picture?
A room with an opening.
You are surprisingly close. It's supposed to be a house.
Damn!
Yeah, it's meant to represent the Hebrew letter Bait,
yep.
Which literally means either house or home, because we do not have separate words for both of these. We have the word Bait literally means both in Hebrew. So, yeah, it's basically the...
I'm going to use it to throw people off. Hey, you want to come over to my bite? What? It's Hebrew for house. Come on.
Yeah, maybe not do that with people who don't know the language. Yeah, that's just going to be a little awkward, isn't it?
Yeah, but it'd be funny.
All right, fine. If that's how you like to get your kicks, but...
I'm a sad little boy.
We love you. I love you, Soda. I love you.
And what I love is all of this is happening behind the image.
Yeah, behind the image. See, I was gonna say, so this does not look like any traditional house that we're familiar with, but
it looks like an aerial view of what an old house back in biblical times would have looked like.
Yeah,
because their houses don't look like ours.
No, I mean four walls and a door.
Yeah.
And it kind of carries over with the modern look of the letter Bet. Except the door is a bit more open now.
Now it's a corridor.
Yeah, I suppose. But it's actually a bit slightly more noticeable with the letter B. Does this look like a house to you?
Not really.
Well, how about now?
Oh, yeah, there it is.
See, I did tell you that some of these are going to get wild.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, as of the moment, there is no officially confirmed representation for the letter Gimel. If you actually noticed the image that I brought up earlier, as you can see, some of the letters. What?
I just noticed there's some gaps.
Yeah, some of the letters, specifically in the top row, that's specifically the one we're focusing on today. You'll notice that some of the letters are missing. However, there have been found representations of those same letters in various different forms of Hebrew writing several centuries later that apparently that just fill in the gaps
Yeah,
between
there's
the
one
missing
vertical
ones.
column that is freaking empty.
Oh yeah, the but it's further down, right?
Yeah, it's more towards the middle of the I
Yeah.
can't remember what the letter was, but basically in the column it's a circle with a cross in it.
What? Oh yeah. That one, yeah.
Yeah.
That one it was a bit notorious, but it's one of those letters that the Hebrew language technically has twice, so there really isn't a need for the other one while the this one exists.
Gotcha.
And I'm still not quite sure why we have both, but whatever. So the letter Gimel in a slightly more advanced look looks like this.
Yeah, the
Now,
reclining chair or psychiatrist's couch.
yeah, now some people would argue that it's supposed to look like this. Some would argue that it's supposed to be the other way around, sort of not lying down and facing upwards, but rather going from up to down.
Okay, so basically just literally flip it.
Yeah, literally, yeah, 180 degrees. That's what I was trying to. That's what I was aiming for. So, can you tell me what? Now, imagine that I remembered to flip the image over and try to see it from upside down. What would that remind you of?
A poor drawing of a gun.
Uh, okay, that's not really what I one of the options I thought you were going with, but it's actually supposed to be representing a camel. It comes from the Hebrew word gamal, which is the Hebrew word for camel.
Okay, that
And
makes sense, but I failed to see how any form of that would make a camel.
well, again, remember, it's not one of the older ones where it's about much more
Literal?
obvious and indicative of what it's supposed to be. So it's basically just the hump of the camel,
Oh,
as opposed to being the full camel. Maybe if one day the official letter will be found in, or rather be able to trace back, we will know what it was supposed to look like, and maybe it does look more resembling of a camel.
I
But for now, this is all we have to contend with.
I'd laugh
Something
if it resembled the Omega symbol.
that, yeah, well, that is a letter from a completely different language.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is what we have to contend with at the moment, which is meant to represent a camel without actually looking much like a camel. However, if you look at the modern modern form of the letter Gimel, it does kind of look a little bit more like a camel walking forward.
Yeah,
With the
see that
long
one
neck.
to me it more resembles a giraffe, but it does more resemble an animal than the other one.
Yeah, well, a giraffe and camel both have long necks,
That's true.
but can you see any camel resemblance in the letter C?
Yeah, now that now that I know what you're going for that, yeah, you turn it 90 degrees this way and it resembles more of a hump. Yeah.
Yep. So you're getting this. You're getting
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
I'm liking this. Now, we went from a letter that does not have any representation in the olden times to a letter that technically has two. Do you remember what the fourth letter of the Hebrew alphabet is by any chance?
No, I'm sorry, I don't off the top of my head. Like I don't. Yeah, sorry. I'm like
It's
Homer
Dalet.
Simpson. Every time I learn something new, it pushes some old stuff out of my brain.
Yeah, well, so is everybody. But it's the letter Dalet.
Okay.
To be
Oh yes,
specific.
the Dalek one.
And the original ancient look of the letter Dalet, well, one of them in any case looked like this.
The Jesus fish.
Or just, a fish, because Jesus wasn't even an idea just yet.
No, but I mean, like over here, that take off the arms, that symbol is synonymous with Jesus.
What about this symbol, though?
Not even close.
So this one is very obviously and very clearly a fish. Do you know
Yeah.
what this is by any chance?
A table.
Okay, that's an interesting guess. But no, it was meant to be a door.
Really? Oh, bring that up again. Okay, I can see that. It's more the threshold of a door, like the entrance.
Remember,
I see it now. I see it.
yeah, remember, you can't like look at this thing and imagine a modern door the way we're familiar with. Imagine what a door used to look like 4,000 years ago ish. Now, the Hebrew word for the word fish is simply Dug.
Doug?
Yep.
Doug.
Dug means
Doug
fish.
the fish.
Doug the fish, not Jim the fish. Doug the fish.
I really dug the fish. I like that.
So you dig it.
Yeah, totally.
You dig it.
I dig it. I'm like Aquaman. I can dig it.
I can dig it. Just like that. I dig it.
Yeah, pretty much.
But this...
I know they're not the best movies, but once in a while they're just dumb, stupid fun.
Yeah. But the Aquaman movie was really, really good.
Yeah, that's actually one of the few, like, little bit of side tangent, but that's probably the only superhero movie that my grandparents and my dad were like, hey, you want to go see? So I actually went and saw it twice in theaters.
Cool.
Yeah. And I'm not going to lie, that is a movie that was made for 4K. Holy crap. It's beautiful.
Absolutely. With all the underwater stuff. But back on topic, class.
Yeah.
So
stay on target.
We need that gift, man. We need that gift back.
I might have it.
Okay, cool. Now, the Hebrew word for the word fish is Dug, and the Hebrew word for door is Delit.
Okay.
Which is how the letter Dalit came from.
Yes, I do remember that from last week.
Now, does this look like either a door or a fish to you?
Stay on target.
Sorry, I found the GIF. Just give me 1 second.
Stay on target. We're too close.
Damn it! Pause. It kind of looks like half a doorway.
Yeah, it looks a bit more closely related to a door than to a fish, but
yeah,
I suppose if you really do want to imagine things, the front could be the body and the bottom side of it could be the tail. Tell you what, though, this kind of looks a little bit more like a fish than the letter Dalit. Like, just
it does.
Yeah, just add a tiny dot eye at the curvy side and add a small tail on the flat side on the left.
It's more like if you're looking at one head on and it's about to open its mouth.
Oh, okay, that's not really where my imagination went, but I mean, if you add a tail on the left, a tiny tail, and an eye and some gills, it kind of looks like a fish.
It could, yeah.
And it also kind of looks like a bit more like a doorway than the other one does.
Stay on target.
That's totally fair.
Could you?
I'm trying to add it to the thing. I'm sorry. I've got it. I've actually got it.
Okay.
For whatever reason, it's playing instead of adding.
So in the meantime, let's move on to the next letter. The letter Hey.
Hey.
Which I'm not noticing. I don't have the Hebrew representation for. So
opening. I'm just trying to add it. I'll do it later. It's pissing me off. Sorry.
Yes. Thank you for not messing around with that anymore. So the letter Hey used to look somewhat like this.
Okay, that actually makes sense.
Why is that then?
Because because it looks like a guy who's trying to show off. Hey.
Yeah, but that is how you would see it in English. Why is a guy in Hebrew drawing the letter Hey like this?
Not a clue. Maybe it's probably something to do with male.
No. But do you remember what we said last couple of times about the letter Hey specifically? And what it commonly represents specifically in the Bible?
Oh, it's it's God.
Jehovah, Jehovah, Jehovah! I'm warning you! If you say Jehovah once more, right? Who threw that?
Yeah.
Yep. So the letter Hey mainly comes from the Hebrew word Hilul, which literally means praising. So the guy that you see here, he's praying.
He's praying to
Not-
God.
He's not saying Hey. He's praying. He's praising the Lord. And side note, that is also where the word Hallelujah came from.
That makes sense.
Because, yeah, surprise, surprise, people, the word hallelujah is in Hebrew. So if you've been saying the word hallelujah or amen, you've been speaking Hebrew the whole time and just didn't realize it. You're welcome again. Should probably add that gif of Maui saying you're welcome. But yeah, Hilul, or rather, shall we say, just take a minor tangent on the word hallelujah. It literally is a portmanteau, which means a combination of two different words
Yep.
to make a third word. It is a combination of hallelu, which literally means praise, or rather a command to praise someone or something, and Yah, which is one of the many different names for God, or in his original name, Jehovah.
Jehovah, Jehovah, Jehovah! I'm warning you, if you say Jehovah once more, right, who threw that?
Stay on target. We're too close. Stay on target.
I found it and got it to add.
Of all the times you could have played it to show me you got it, this was not
Sorry.
the right time. So yeah, this guy was, while standing here and praising the Lord this whole time, that was how the letter Hey got its name. Now,
It's almost like a hieroglyph.
if you look at the modern look of the letter Hey, does that look like a guy praising the Lord or praying or whatever?
Yes, it does. Because that can be construed as the part that bends. That could be the person praying at an altar.
Well, yes, but let me just fill you in with another bonus fact. The way the modern Jewish way of praying these days, praying, reading from the Bible or whatever, is commonly done this way.
Yeah, since that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, if you watch videos of people praying in the West Bank in Jerusalem, that is basically how they do it. They like stiff up and bend forward, both men and women, and that is more or less what the letter Hey is doing right now. How about the letter E? Does that look like it's praying?
Not really. Whoa! Actually, it is if you do it from an aerial view.
How about now?
Yeah, if you look at it from an aerial view, it could be like the person doing this. So yeah, I can kind of see it.
Yeah, it actually looks a lot closer to this than this.
It does, yeah.
Now, on to the next letter, the letter Vav. What does that look like to you, sir?
The wand you blow bubbles with.
Hey, now you're the one making SpongeBob references, but no.
Really? That was a SpongeBob reference?
Yeah, SpongeBob loves to blow bubbles. But this is meant to represent an actual Vav. So the word Vav is basically just a hanger. More specifically, a hanger that you hang things on, not a hanger in an airport, like a clothes hanger, a hat hanger, something that you hang things on, which this kind of resembles as well as this. And at this point, I don't even think I need to bring up the letter F, which
that was pretty obvious.
Yeah, this is more or less what the letter Vav eventually came to represent in years to come. Now, jumping on over to the letter Zain befatach. Do you have any idea what this is meant to be?
Well, it looks like the English equal sign.
It's not just the English. I mean, it's pretty universal.
True. Okay, touche. It looks like the universal equal sign.
Well,
I don't.
Apparently, it's meant to be a Zeke.
Oh.
Which is either a weapon, or uh, ancient slang word for azikim, which literally translates to handcuffs or just cuffs. So
Interesting.
you use those to cuff people, to tie people's hands together.
Hmm.
Interestingly, once again, the Hebrew letters, the modern letter Zayin, does not really look anything like that.
Nope.
Although I suppose if you take the top and wrap it around someone's arm, it does kind of look like a modern a zikon, which is like I don't even know what the English word for it is, but just this little piece of plastic that you used to tie things up.
Zip ties.
Zip ties, yeah, which also starts with the letter Z. Yeah.
Son of a
Speaking of
bitch.
which, speaking of which, this actually looks a bit more similar to this one.
Yeah, just without the
diagonal line.
diagonal.
And this kind of looked like a zip tie, right?
You can, yeah.
Okay, now on to the letter. Hold on, let me just check my notes here. Yeah, so I thought we're running into another letter that doesn't have any representation, but this one does. The letter Chet. Now, you're probably gonna have a hard time trying to guess what this is.
Well, naturally, my first thought is the Roman numeral 3. But it kind of columns, like structural
Well,
columns.
what if I told you? Well, what if I told you were looking at it from the wrong angle? But that is how the letter was used.
Not surprised. A ladder.
No, it does look
Yeah.
like a ladder, but it's not.
Okay, what is it?
It was meant to represent the Hebrew word chatzer,
Okay.
which means garden or yard,
So a trellis.
which is that is
Sorry,
the first
a trellis is the structure part of a garden where like the vines or flowers will crawl up and grow.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. You can kind of
Okay.
see these different.
Yeah, now I see it. When you say
sections.
gardens, like okay, now I see it as a trellis.
Now, it's either a garden or a yard because once again we have one word for both.
Yeah.
And when I say yard, of course I mean backyard / front yard. Oops, I
Yeah.
took off the wrong thing. Now, if one were to look at the modern look of the letter Chet, it does kind of look like the start of a garden, doesn't it?
A little bit, but now I cannot unsee the H. Because I know where you're going to be going with this. The next one's going to be the English one's going to be an H, right?
H.
Now I
That
see
actually,
it.
yeah. Once again, this looks a lot closer to this than this.
Yeah.
So
Why they didn't make it more commonplace, like more common, I don't know. Like I mean, like why did they change it? Is what I mean.
change what?
Well, it's just because, like you said, this looks more closer to the original. Why did they change it to what it looks like now?
Well, remember, by the time that Eliezer ben Yehuda, topic for another day, by the way, but by the time he got around to renewing and rejuvenating the Hebrew language, the Hebrew itself got the language itself got so incredibly muddled. You can kind of notice that around the middle there, it got like ridiculously overly complicated.
Yeah.
By the time it devolved into that, the closest thing that he had to base the new look of the language off of was the more locally used language, which was Arabic at the time.
Okay.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the rest of the influence from these original letters were slightly influenced more by some more Greco-Roman lettering, which then eventually led to the Latin form of these letters, creating the English language.
Makes sense.
Right. So now we're on to yet another one of the letters that does not have a proper representation in the olden days, the letter Tet, which several centuries after this this form of writing was made obsolete, looked like this.
Mm-hmm. The head.
It's not really a head.
Well, no, just because we know when we were talking 2 weeks ago, I mentioned how like that's the pronunciation for the French word for head. Tête.
Oh, right. Tête. Tête, yeah.
Um,
Tête.
So, the Catholic in me, this looks like the symbol for the Eucharist, which, as you know, is to represent the body of Christ. It also looks kind of similar to some halos you see behind religious figures in old paintings.
Wow, you're taking it in such the wrong direction, man. Like,
No.
it's almost fun.
Shit.
So the ancient word for tête, apparently, according to the research that I found, is like the center of a citrus fruit. Like, you know, when you slice up a citrus fruit, like orange, and you see this weird round plus shape in the
You're right.
middle.
I was way off.
Yeah, this is more or less what it was meant to represent. Maybe if we finally get the olden days variant of it, if that such a variant even exists, it will look even more like opening up an orange.
Yeah, I would like to see that because that is seriously not where my mind went to first.
Yeah, and you can kind of see that represented in the letter tet, the modern letter tet.
Well, maybe you're peeling the orange.
Yeah, peeling the orange, you can kind of see that it's meant to represent a citrus type of fruit.
Okay.
Right? Now, this letter does not have an equivalent in the...
Yeah, that's the one I pointed out to you earlier.
Yeah, it's one of only 2 letters. We will not be looking at the English equivalent of them. So right now, let's move on to the next one. Letter Yud. And why is it... Oh, for some reason, there's a delay on my side. Can you guess what this is meant to look like without making it too dirty?
Well, clearly it's the letter Y.
Well, yes and no, but that doesn't.
It also kind of looks like the
icon.
The fork you used to cook hot dogs with at a barbecue. The icon?
Yeah, and remember, they didn't really have barbecues back then.
I know. Well, they probably did. They just didn't realize it.
Or maybe they didn't call it that.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's called a campfire.
Yeah, or just eating.
I don't know, because like I said, obviously it looks like a Y, so I know what a modern equivalent you're going to bring up. But outside of that,
well, it's meant to represent the Hebrew word yad.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Now, can you guess what the Hebrew word yad means?
I don't remember. No.
Hand.
Oh.
It's basically a hand stretching out some fingers. It's more of an arm.
I was gonna say, like, how flexible were hands back then? Because you'd have to contort like a mofo. But I do see it. I do see it. It's kind of like this. It's kind of like this.
Oh, if it's kind of like the forearm with the palm and a thumb.
Well, actually, what it reminds me of is this, which is like a slang term for hang loose.
Okay, cool. Now, the modern version of the letter U kind of looks like a tiny hand.
A little bit.
Yeah, but can you guess what the English letter equivalent to that is?
Well, yeah, I told you earlier it was the Y.
No, it's I.
Really? I thought it would have been the Y.
Yeah. Weirdly enough, but that kind of looks a little bit closer to the arm bone.
Yeah.
It looks like the bone of an arm.
Huh.
Now, moving on, we have the letter Kaf. Remember that?
Yes.
Can you guess what this is meant to represent?
Well, like the first thing that pops in my mind is the menorah because of the 4 prongs, even though I know menorah is not 4 prongs. Also, it kind of reminds me of an illustration of a harp, oddly enough.
Okay, that's cool. But once again, it's a lot simpler than you were making it.
Usually is.
It's the Hebrew word kaf.
Yeah, well, you said that part.
No, it's the word and the letter kaf. But do you know what the letter kaf the word kaf or chaf means?
No.
Well, we had the arm or the hand. Now we have
The leg?
the palm.
Oh, the cuff.
Yeah. There's cuff, the cuff of the hand, which is the palm,
Yeah.
and then there's the gov, which is the back of the hand.
Oh,
Gov is also the Hebrew word for back.
oh cool.
Yeah, so this is mainly representing a palm. And
Yeah, and
a
see,
claw-
that actually makes sense because it does resemble a hand to a degree.
a misshapen hand, but a hand
Oh, I
nonetheless.
wouldn't really say misshapen, but it resembles this. I'll remove the picture for a second.
Live long and prosper. By the way, this symbol, again, it's a Jewish symbol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I knew from learning about Star Trek.
Yeah,
Just
so
couldn't tell you what
when-
the symbol is, but I knew it's like a blessing or something.
it's how the Jewish priests greet each other. The Cohens, as they're called. That's a greeting card. That's how they say hello. They say
Wait.
hello like this.
Cohen is
And when the late great Leonard Nimoy brought that aspect into Star Trek, he instilled it in the popular culture that this is how Vulcans say goodbye and hello. But when in reality, what he was trying to teach people is this is how Jewish priests say hello and goodbye to one another.
I can definitely see why he would have linked the two because the Vulcans are supposed to be like a more intelligent and higher learning being, and isn't that how like priests and rabbis are traditionally looked at? Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Going back to the letter itself for a minute, you can kind of tell that the modern version of the letter cuff kind of looks like a palm doing this.
Yeah, like this, kind of like a crab
Yeah.
hand.
And the same can be said for the letter
For the-
K.
See, and that's funny, is because with the modern version of the letter, I would have thought you.
You, really?
Yeah, well, bring it up. Bring the other one up. Tell me you don't see a fucking U. Sorry, tell me you don't see a U in there.
I can, but again, remember, the letter itself is a K
Yeah.
sound.
That's the part that always throws me off.
So K, I mean, I can't tell you how hard it was for me to accept that the letter Y is a Y sound and not a T sound like a tzaddik, which is what it resembles. But yeah, the letter K, as I mentioned, really looks a lot more like a palm doing
Mhm.
this. And after the letter Kaf, after the letter Kaf, we have the letter Lamed.
Which looks like a shepherd's staff.
Very good, Mr. Soda. Gold star for you. That is basically what it's meant to represent. A Lamed, apparently, that is what the ancients used to call that shepherd's staff. A Lamed. To shepherd the sheep around.
Apologize if this sounds bad the way it's coming out, but is that still a thing over there, like sheep herding with like that with the staffs and stuff? I'm sorry if that sounds bad. I'm actually legit curious.
Yes, and I've actually dabbled in that once upon a time.
Oh, how was it?
I was a shepherd for a day without the staff because I wasn't, I was new, so they didn't really let me have the staff. But yes, they still do that. I mean, it's literally on our intro. If you haven't noticed,
That's okay. That's fair. I didn't think about that. But how was that? Clearly, you're not working there still. But
I mean, it was fine, I guess.
okay,
But I mean, that was really when I was desperate for a job that I do anything. And one day maybe I'll do an entire episode about the crazy, bizarre jobs I used to do back in the day.
yes, please. I would love to hear that. But this conversation is reminding me there is an old 80s sitcom that I think you might like called Perfect Strangers, about a sheep herder from the fictional Greek island of Mypos who travels to America to live with his distant cousin Larry, who didn't even know he existed. And now we do the dance of joy.
Yay!
Don't be ridiculous.
But going back to the letter Lamed for a minute and going into the modern look of it, it does still have some of the curvy look.
It kind of still
the-
has that staff representation, yeah.
Yeah. And the same can be said for the letter L.
That's an obvious one. The
Yeah,
line with the L.
I kind of feel like I don't have to tilt or flip them anymore because you can kind of guess the
There might be one or two you might, because if you start seeing me turn my head like this.
Yeah. But so this is really where the Hebrew alphabet sort of links up with the English alphabet. So what comes after the letter L?
M, the first letter of my actual name.
Yeah, but don't let people know that.
Oh, that's right. Yes, sorry. I was born Soda and I will die Soda.
Yeah, thank you. That you are legally called Soda, right?
To the point where I had a job where that was actually on my work coveralls.
Really? They gave you a name tag that said Soda?
Well, no. So basically, we got to choose whatever we had on it. And all jokes aside, my name is Matt Majot. But there was also another Matt M working. So I said, screw it, I'll just put Soda on it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Like,
I wish I'd have taken a pair with me when I left, but I didn't.
yeah.
I could have cosplayed as Jason for Halloween.
That's the small mistakes you make.
Yeah. I wouldn't have fit in it anymore, but it would have been nice to have.
So I'm not going to say his name on air for obvious reasons, but I had this friend in the military that he was so accustomed to introducing to the people calling him by his last name that he just straight up gave up on his first name and just introduced himself with his first name. Like when you say when you met him for the first time, he wouldn't tell you his first name when he introduced himself. He said like, "How you doing? I'm," and he said his last name. So like, everyone called him by his last name so often that people just didn't know what his first name was.
Yeah, when I got the nickname Soda, it was very much like that as well, to the point where, because I wasn't in my hometown at that point, so every time I hear someone call me Matt, I wouldn't respond because I'm so used to be called Soda.
Yeah, and with him, it was the opposite. If you were trying to get his attention, he was preoccupied with something else, and you kept calling out his last name, and he wouldn't respond. You just yell out his first name. He's like, "What? Who knows my first name?" But yeah, so the letter M, or rather the letter Mem in Hebrew, looked like this back in the day.
Mm-hmm. I don't know
Can
why.
you guess what this is?
It reminds me of a snake.
No, it is not. It comes from the Hebrew word mime.
Oh.
Like, Mime Bialik.
Oh, like the name.
Yeah, the name of the actress, Mime Bialik.
Bialik. I knew that part of the story. That it's the Hebrew name and stuff like that.
Who at one point or another was a co-host of Fun with Flags, but we're not here to talk about that for a moment.
That is right. Yes, Amy Farrah Fowler.
Yeah. So do you know what mime means in Hebrew, or more specifically, do you know what Mime Bialik's first name means?
River or something like that? No, I'm probably way off. Actually,
you're closer than you think. It just means water.
Okay.
Mime is the Hebrew word for water.
And okay, I see that.
Which still doesn't explain why the Hebrew letter for M looks like this.
Yeah.
I mean, what's watery about this?
Water park slides.
Yeah, I suppose if you really want to force it. But this is another piece of the English looking a lot closer to the original than the Hebrew.
Yeah.
One. I mean, you can kind of see an M in here.
Yeah.
2 M's if you squint.
Yeah, with a W mixed in there as well.
Now, the next letter in the English alphabet after M?
N.
Correctamundo, which looks like this. So.
What was this one called again?
Nun.
Okay.
What does that remind you of?
I know you laugh at me for some of these, but I'm thinking of waterfall. I don't know why.
Oh man, I mean, you guessed snake for the water one, and you're guessing waterfall for the snake.
Really?
Yeah. It literally comes from the Hebrew word nachash,
Okay.
which means snake.
That's hilarious.
Now,
I
unlike
do see it, yeah.
unlike its predecessor, this one, the modern one, does kind of look very snakish,
A little bit.
as well as the English version.
Yeah.
Now, at this point, let me just check the notes again. Yep, we are once again back to another letter that does not have a proper representation in the original proto-canonic writing, but it has an equivalent several centuries down the line, which is the letter Samich, which is the worst quality of all of them, but that is really the best I have at the moment.
Yeah, and it reminds me, I know this is not it, but it reminds me of an old school TV antenna.
That is exactly what I was going to suggest.
Nice.
But if you actually know what the original meaning of the word
squint, it looks
Samich-
normal.
What?
If you squint, it looks kind of normal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean that's just because the quality of the picture is horrible.
Yeah.
But if you actually knew what the original word for samech means, it's basically the a tent pole.
Oh, yeah, I
Like
can see
you
that.
used to stick the tent
Yeah.
to the ground, which I suppose kind of the modern look of the letter kind of resembles. It mainly looks more like the tent pole from above. It's Jigglypuff viewed from above. I guess that's
Basically, it really
And-
looks like an oil drop.
the what?
An oil drop.
Yeah, it does. But the English equivalent to the letter Samech is X, which does actually look a little bit more like a modern tent pole.
Yeah, 100%. Especially when you stretch them out and you lay them on the ground before you slide them into the tent itself. Yeah.
Yep. And the next letter in the Hebrew alphabet is Ein.
Now this is obvious because we were talking about this. This is the I.
Yep, it literally is the Hebrew letter for I.
Mm-hmm.
Now, looking at the modern version of the letter, it would technically look like an I if you added another curving line from where the two lines don't meet. And then the diagonal line would be straight down the middle, and it would look a little more like the eye of a cat. Are you following my logic here?
Kind of.
Like, you know that there's this curving line that the diagonal line just comes out of it. Just add
Yeah,
another
yeah, yeah,
curving
yeah,
line.
yeah. I know what you're talking about now. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe I should have made another version with Windows Paint or whatever,
Yeah,
or
maybe.
Photoshop or whatever. But you get my meaning.
I do.
And
Yeah.
obviously, the equivalent of that letter in the English alphabet is O,
Which makes sense.
pretty obvious. I mean, it's an I.
Yeah.
And it's actually looks a lot more accurate to a human eye than this, because they did not know what eyes looked like back then.
The irony being, they could just look at someone's eye. It's true.
You earned it. You earned that one. So, jumping on over, what comes after the letter O?
In English, P.
Yes, which looks like this in Hebrew. Which, let me just check my notes again, because I think it's another one. Nope, it's not. So let me just bring up the letter P again. What does that remind you of?
A bend in the road.
Okay, cool. Okay, that's cool. But it, oddly enough, just like the letter Ein comes from the word Ein, the letter P comes from the word P. Do you know what that is?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Mouth. And this
Was that supposed to be an esophagus?
No, it's a mouth. It's the lips.
Oh. Okay.
And it kind of also looks
It's a
little
grin.
bit like-
It looks okay. If I look at it as a grin, yeah, then I see it.
I mean, it kind of looks more like a smile.
Yeah.
And if you look
just
at the
gotta tilt your head
modern,
a little bit, but yeah.
if you look at the modern version of the letter P, kind of looks like someone's mouth folding in on itself, like so.
Mm-hmm. A little bit,
Now,
yeah.
now, can you see the resemblance in the letter P for a second?
Totally.
Can you?
Yeah. The only difference is with the P, the tongue, but the only really difference is the stem.
So, are you telling me that I made this extra image for nothing?
Yep.
Well, lucky me.
But yeah, no, it looks like a tongue.
Yeah, it's just a straight line with a tongue sticking out of it.
Yeah.
Now, as you can see, there is no equivalent to the letter Tzadik, so we're going to jump to the next one right ahead. And that version of the letter Tzadik used to look like this.
A forked tongue.
Okay, that's an interesting way of looking at it, but no. Let me just put out the
I know.
name.
Tree, cacti.
Well, you're in the ballpark. It's tzemach, the Hebrew word for plant.
Oh, hey.
Yeah, and
it does look like plant stock.
it does look like a plant sprouting from the ground, which in a way does resemble the letter Tzadik a little bit.
Yeah, kind of a little bit, yeah.
Now, this is another one of those letters that does not have the English equivalent, so we will be proceeding to the next one. The letter.
It's like if the letter Y married the letter Z. It had a kid.
Why Z?
Yeah,
Or ZY? Well, Y, X, Y, and Z are often used in math as to represent something. Maybe, I don't know, X and Y got separated and Y and Z got together. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe, who knows?
So, since it doesn't have an equivalent in the English language, we will be jumping on over to the letter Kuf.
Which looks like the letter 8, or the number 8.
I'm not kidding you. I just now noticed it.
Really?
Like, yeah, I've been focusing on it looking like something completely different than what it's supposed to be.
What were
But
you thinking?
I thought it looked like a vase.
I can
Or
see
an
that.
ancient vase.
I can
which-
see that. With a stopper on top.
Yeah, and the Hebrew word for vase is kad.
Oh.
But it doesn't start with the letter kuf, it starts with the letter kaf. So this letter is meant to represent a kof or kop.
A cup.
Kop.
Oh.
Or kof. Now, you will remember that last week I mentioned that kof is the Hebrew word for monkey or ape. Do you think that's the case here?
I mean, yeah, if you gave it arms and legs.
Well, no, sir, because kof also, coincidentally, is the name given to that little hole in the sewing thing.
Oh, the eye of the needle. The needle eye.
Yeah, the needle eye is called kof, and that is
Oh.
where the letter kof, or rather kuf,
That
got its
makes
name.
sense.
Yeah, and you can kind of see that it does look like a little bit like the eye with the string for
Little
sewing going inside it. And obviously, I don't need to explain the letter Q to you
No.
because this
No, you
looks
don't.
even more obvious.
Yeah. That is literally trying to put the string through the hole.
Yep. So should we move on to another pretty obvious one?
Sure.
This might actually start a bit of a controversy in the comments, but who cares? I'm ready for it. The letter Resh.
Okay, so I have thoughts. It looks like a foot wearing a sock.
I'm just now noticing it.
It looks like a medieval knight looking up in the air while wearing a helmet. And the other one, I'm not going to say on air.
Okay, well, you were partially right on
Actually,
one
it
of
also looks like a silo a little bit.
Well, yeah, but silos back in the day didn't really look like that.
No.
But so you were partially right on at least one of them.
Not the
It comes
sock.
from no, it comes from the Hebrew word rosh, which literally means head.
Oh, hey.
Now, here is where the tangent comes from. So last time I talked about we talked about how Reish kind of sounds like Reish Al Ghul,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Head of the demon.
Yeah, head of the demon, Rosh. However, Rosh is the Hebrew word for shut up. I'm already getting people contradicting me.
Your mom?
I don't know. So the Hebrew word for Rosh, for head, is Rosh, but that's in Hebrew. Now, in most depictions of Raz Al Ghul, he is depicted from coming from a place where the prominent language is not Hebrew,
Mhm.
but Arabic. Am I right?
I believe that's the case, yeah.
I mean, you're more knowledgeable on that than I am. So
Yeah, no, like in his early days, he was very much depicted as being like in a far off land, kind of, the sand dunes and stuff like that. Like I even got a book that depicts it here.
So Arabian-inspired character. Am I
Yeah,
right?
pretty much.
Now, if the Hebrew word for for head means Rosh, do you know what the Arabic word for head is?
I don't know.
Ras.
Fuck off.
Yes. So basically, if you were to bring Arabic into this, his name in Arabic is Ras Al Ghul.
Yeah. Jesus.
So that's why, and I will stand on this point till the day I die, the proper pronunciation of the character's name is Raz Al Ghul, not Reish Al Ghul, and I just explained why.
Yeah.
So please stop arguing
sense.
with me. So,
It
yeah,
makes
people
sense.
argue with me over this. Like, dude, learn a bit outside the comic book realm, and educate yourself on things.
Yeah. Okay, I was mistaken. I thought there was some sand dune stuff, but yeah. Batman Tales of the Demon, a collection of stuff by Denny O'Neil, who created the character of Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah, so thank you for calling him Ra's al Ghul now.
See, well, here's the thing. I like up until that conversation started, I did always call him Ra's al Ghul.
Well, thank you.
It's just when I started hearing people say, "Oh, it's actually Raish," and I changed it. But to hear it's actually Ra's.
Yeah, I don't know who came up with the idea that it's supposed to be Raish, but it's a bit racist to say that.
I would like to see you pop on camera and explain this to Mike Kalinowski.
I mean, he might.
He might actually appreciate that.
Yeah, he might actually beat my Rosh into the ground for saying that, for contradicting him. But
I mean, if you could back it up and you have evidence, I mean, you're literally from the fucking area.
Well, thank you. And I'll even double down on that. Even the way the rest of the name goes is Arabic. Ras Al Ghul.
Yeah.
It's not in any other language except maybe Spanish, but that's really kind of also an Arabic influence. Sorry, that was the word I was looking for. Ras Al Ghul, head of the demon. I mean, there's really no other way I will ever accept anything other than Ras Al Ghul.
So if anyone tries to do that, it'd be like, well, guys, Raish is the Hebrew pronunciation, but if he's Arabic, it's actually Raz.
Well, the Hebrew pronunciation would have been Rosh, so that's still incorrect.
It's still incorrect, yeah.
So again, if anyone ever argues you on that point him to this video.
Or I can literally just call you up and hey, 50. Explain.
And I'm like, oh, great, another one. Now, we talked a lot about the Hebrew word Rosh.
Yep, sock.
Sockhead. It's Mr. Sacco! Say hello to Mr. Sacco!
You actually know who Sacco is?
I do.
Wow. I have a Sacco, but I'm not going to get it.
It's a long story. I'll explain it to you later. But
yeah, please.
So the modern version of the Hebrew letter kind of looks a little bit like a head without a face.
Actually, that looks more like the hand puppet.
Yeah, it's Mr. Sacco.
Yeah.
And the Hebrew word for R, it kind of does look like a head with a neck on it. A lot closer to this, once again. Okay, now we're on to the penultimate letter in the Hebrew alphabet. And I'm really, really nervous of some of the responses this is going to get.
From me?
Yes, and I promise you, I swear to you, this is what the letter used to look like back in the day. Prepare yourself for the letter Sheen.
Take that off. Take that off.
But can you tell me what this is supposed to be?
Not without getting dirty.
Please do. Please try.
A pair of testicles?
Okay, anything else that comes to mind?
Naturally, a few inches north of that on a woman.
Okay.
And a butt.
What?
And a butt.
And really nothing else?
And of course the letter 3.
Okay, cool.
And
okay.
and a W.
Okay. So all the wrong things.
Well, I'm assuming the first three were definitely gonna be wrong.
They were a lot closer than the letter 3, but would you believe me if I told you it's supposed to be a tooth?
Yep.
Yeah. Now you get it.
Yeah, no, I get it, because if you look at what a tooth actually looks like, especially the top part, that's well, not the top part, but the part that protrudes.
The part in the mouth that you can actually see.
Yeah, I can see that being a tooth.
Yeah, so that is meant to be a tooth. It just happens to look like this for whatever
Technically,
reason.
I wasn't too far off with the first 3. I was still on the body part.
Yeah, I did say the first 3 were closer.
Yeah.
So yeah, it comes from the word shen, which is the word for tooth. So obviously, over the years, the word shen became sheen.
Which makes sense why that looks like an ass. I'm sorry, I had to.
Anyways, so the modern letter sheen, I mean, that's kind of looked like a
that one is probably the closest in representation.
Yeah, it not only looks like this, sort of,
Yeah.
but it does look like a row of teeth, which is a lot closer. Oddly enough, that's the only letter that looks a lot closer to the original than the English variant, which is S.
Not even close.
Now, I've looked at this several different ways. I've even tilted it 90 degrees. I mean, you really have to have a lot of imagination to see teeth in there, but I don't
know. If anything, I see a tonsil.
Yeah. I mean, earlier in life, before I did research for this video, I thought that this was meant to represent the word sharsheret, which means chain, or shar, which means gate. Both words starting with S, and a
I
lot.
can see that looking like that making sense, because it kind of does look like a version of handcuffs, the original version.
And it looks more like chain, or rather chain mail, or closer to a gate. Both words, sharsheret and shar, both words starting with the letter sheen. But this does not look like a tooth to me.
No, it doesn't.
All right, so now we're on to the final one. Are you ready?
Let's do this.
It's the letter Tav, or Tav, depending on who you ask.
Well, that one, my thought leads to obviously the crucifix, or the lowercase t.
Yeah, but again, you keep reverting back to crucifixion. Crucifixion? I'm asking you. Crucifixion? You're supposed to say yes. Crucifixion?
Yes.
Good. Out the door, on your left, one cross each. How could you miss that?
I'm sorry, I'm hungry.
Okay.
It's noon here and I haven't eaten yet.
Yeah, but you keep reverting back to the crucifixion stuff, which again came out almost 2,000 years later.
I'm sorry. Well, I mean, there's not I don't know a lot about the 2,000 years in between. To me, it's on the same area.
And that's what I'm here for. So
Exactly.
the original form of the letter tough or tav comes from the word tav, which literally means a note. Now, not a notebook, a musical note.
Music note. That's where my mind was heading when you said note.
Yeah, a note. And
Interesting.
suppose this could be an ancient form of a note, right?
Yeah, I can kind of see it.
I mean, we don't know how musical notes used to look like back then, as far as I know, at least. But I suppose is a good representation of the word of a musical note.
I
in a
mean,
way.
yeah, I can kind of see it. You could kind of make a quarter note out of that.
Yeah. Does it resemble the letter T, or rather, does the letter T resemble a musical note?
It can, yeah.
And you already talked last week about how the modern look of the letter Tav looks like an eighth note, so it's not too big of a stretch.
No, it's not.
And that is it for all of the ancient look of the original letters in the Hebrew alphabet, the proto-canonic alphabet. As you can see, it sort of changed form a little bit, and by let's see, one.
Oh shit! I'm just actually seeing the English letters on this thing now because again, I wasn't reading it from right to left.
Yeah. So hold on, give me a second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so the sixth row from the top is the one that, oddly enough, has all the letters in it.
Yep.
The sixth row from the top.
Yep.
That is more commonly referred to as the ancient Hebrew language, or more specifically, the language that the Bible was specifically written in.
Oh.
Rather, most early depictions of the Bible.
Yeah, basically anything pre-gospel.
And post the Kingdom of Israel, which we talked about a couple of episodes ago in the Purim episode.
Yeah, which turned out bullshit.
Yeah. Oh man, I deleted the GIF, but none of that story is true, is it? Yeah. So remember the quick reminder: these are what the original letters used to look like. Once again, some of these are missing for one reason or another that we may never actually know. But even if you look at this picture, look at where the letter Resh is supposed to be. What, right?
Yeah,
Ras.
I'm looking at it right now. Yeah,
it's Ras, not Resh, guys. Stop arguing.
Yeah, and I'm seeing how the Ton, the one that I said looked like testicles, it says here it's a bow, which I see.
Yeah. Wait, hold on. I think these might be actually completely different letters. So for the time being, let's look at this instead.
Okay.
This is much more accurate. See, where you see the shin at the bottom right, that is more or less what I'm used to seeing that letter in its ancient form. That looks a little bit more presentable, and it does actually look a little bit more like a chain or a gate,
or a mustache as opposed to a pair of testicles.
Yeah, like I said, much more presentable.
Yeah. I can just imagine your mom just shaking her head while she's seeing me try to decipher these.
Oh boy, maybe I should tell her to not watch this episode.
You just tell her you're going to see Soda get dirty really quick.
Not really quick. I mean, it took about an hour to get to the letter Sheen, but whatever.
Yeah, I was getting dirty earlier.
True. Yeah, true. So, Mr. Soda, that was my topic for this week. What is yours?
So this is based on a conversation that you, me, and your mom had. I'm going to teach you about the local cuisine here in Canada, and I might teach you more about the French Canadian cuisine. But I'm going to tell you about all the things that are normal for me and see if they're normal for you over there.
Okay, cool. That's relatively similar to an idea that I was going to have in a couple of weeks from now, because I already have my topic picked out for my next time, which
Me
is
too.
more relevant to the time that we happen to be in. I can't. That's all I can say without spoiling too much. But I did plan to have an episode just talking about Israeli snacks.
Yeah.
So,
So my
put a pin in
and I
it.
have an idea for my next episode as well. And what's funny is that episode will drop the day after the historical event that has to do with my story.
Oh, that's cool.
I just looked at that. Looked it up. I'll tell you I'll tell you off screen, but I'm gonna leave it a surprise for the viewers.
Okay, cool. As you wish. So this is us having some fun with flags and letters that look ridiculous thousands of
Very
years ago.
All right.
By the way, since we talked about Raz Al Ghul for the majority of the episode,
I will
or rather,
say though, Ra's al Ghul does sound cool, but yes, I agree.
yes,
It is
yes, but I mean it's wrong.
Yeah.
So do you want me to blow your mind even further and tell you something else that you've been saying wrong?
Sure, I'm always up to being corrected.
So you know how we talked about, where is it? The letter Het
Mm-hmm.
is primarily represented in English with the letter H.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see where I'm going with this?
Not really.
So the Indiana Jones character Salah,
Yeah,
His
I
name-
love Salah. John Rhys Davies.
yeah, his name is actually Salah.
Oh, it's a hard
Yeah,
name.
yeah. Again, you've all been saying it wrong, guys. Even the people in the movie have been saying it wrong. It's not Salah. It's
Salah.
Salah. Like Salah Shabati.
Actually, one of the things I love about that movie, and that does have to do with the character of Salah, but for simplicity's sake, Salah. It's how he pronounces Belloc. Belosh. The only time you ever hear that pronunciation in the movies, so it makes me wonder if he, tried to learn the local language a little bit. Belosh.
Yeah, again, it is language barriers, but mainly because the Arabs can't really pronounce, or rather, Arab-speaking people can't really pronounce het very well. They just go het. So officially, it's called Salah, but it's like a soft het, if that's even a thing.
Hence
It's a
why
Salah.
Salah.
Salah. Salah. That's maybe another topic for another episode. But so we talked about my topic. We now know what is your topic for next week. Where can the people of the interwebs find you?
So on this channel, the Northern Entertainment Group, on my personal Instagram and Twitter at soda_the_saxman. Occasionally Mondays and Fridays, just doing live streaming Monday Night Raw and SmackDown on the Hotel Network. And then keep an eye out on my Twitter and my buddy Dagan S. Broad's Twitter for some stuff coming up in the future.
Okay, very, very cool. And when I'm not correcting people on how to properly pronounce names, or rather how to properly pronounce Middle Eastern names, you can find me correcting people on Doctor Who, on my other show, The Greatest Show in the Galaxy, where this week I had the wonderful Mr. Soda on, as well as our good friend Snark, where we talked about
Schemy, 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 and crispy. That's you, barbecue.
I will not have my millennia of suffering mocked.
Oh, you will. And you will like it.
You made your point, Missy.
So yeah, we talked all about the Master and his/her many incarnations all over the series of Doctor Who. And speaking of Doctor Who, you can also find me on my own YouTube channel, 50 Shades of Geek, where I do weekly reviews of every single Doctor Who episode from 1963 all the way up to 2022. So yeah, that's it for me. So and then that is for you. So
That's it for me.
let's end this by re-showing our famous outro, where you can actually see a shepherd in the outro. Litraot, everybody.
Salut.